Today, we're talking about how your organization should use purchase orders. And hello, Jamie, Danielle. Okay, everything's working just fine. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it. The purchase order thing, I've made some posts about this over the last, month or whatever. And it's kind of a hot topic for me in a sense because it really just gets to me the way that a lot of organizations use purchase orders. When I was auditing, many of my audit clients, their board of directors required the use of purchase orders. And so to the staff, that just meant we have to have a purchase order. Thanks, Jim. The staff just knew that as we have to have a purchase order. They didn't really understand why they were doing it or, what the purpose was. So most times, or not most times, but a lot of times anyway, they would do the purchase order at the same time they got the invoice. So the purchase had already been made, whatever, it was all said and done. And now they're filling out the purchase order. Why? Because they have to. And then at the time the check was written, the director or whoever was supposed to sign the purchase order would sign it. So that frustrated me. So I was kind of left with a couple of choices, and I don't want this to go into an auditing thing here, but the purpose, what's the purpose of a purchase order? Well, there are different purposes. If you're dealing with inventory and stock and all those things, then the purchase order serves, that purpose of helping you to track your inventory, what was ordered, what was received. If you're not, which was the case with most of my audit clients, then the purchase order served as a point of authorization for the purchase. If it wasn't really filling that requirement, then to me, like, why even bother having them, number one? And certainly from an audit perspective, I wasn't going to bother testing because it really just didn't serve any purpose. So Jamie has a comment here. Frankly, during my auditing years, I was never asked to look at purchase orders, and I never even thought of it. Now that you mention it, I feel like an idiot. Well, thank you, Jamie, for that honesty. Appreciate that. So that whole audit thing, the authorization, was one of the things. And I had a couple points I wanted to go over, and excuse me for looking at my notes. So I think a couple common reasons for purchase orders. One is the authorization, and the other is to properly control and track inventory. And I see Jamie just put a comment about that. So, we want to be creating a purchase order and filling out the actual items that we're purchasing with the prices that were quoted from the vendor. Then that purchase order should be authorized. Then it should go to the vendor. And only at that point. We shouldn't be ordering the stuff and then filling out the purchase order whenever it comes back, because now, what was the unit cost supposed to be on the various items? Were we supposed to be charged shipping? I don't know. So nobody really knows the answer to that. So, I guess I started with my the topic, how your organization should be using purchase orders. So let me take a step back and go over that again. So if you're not worried about inventory, but you still want to use purchase orders as authorization for a purchase, then they need to be completed and signed prior to going to the vendor. You need to have that documented so that you can follow that. If you're using them to control inventory, they should be completed and have the proper unit cost that was quoted from that vendor. Then Jamie asked a question, what mechanism would you recommend for authorization? I mean, electronic authorization would be ideal, but that has to be in such a way that that authorization is saved and can be documented on the purchase order so that, we have that audit chain that we want to be able to follow, the audit trail. If not, then it needs to be printed. Ideally, you'd be able to fill that out online on the screen in your software, get it approved, and then email it to the vendor and have all that take place electronically without having to print the paper. That's the ideal situation. If you have to print the paper, that's fine, and have someone sign that physically, that's fine too. So you want to have a process where it's being prepared, having the proper unit cost, authorized, get it to the vendor, however that is. Then when that comes in, someone needs to compare what was ordered with what was received. So you have to be doing that physical matching. And sometimes you do need a piece of paper to do that. It may be difficult depending on the layout of your receiving department and so on. It might be difficult to do that online. But, we want to know what was received. We want to know it was back ordered. Then, and that needs to be indicated in the computer system. And then once the invoice is received, that needs to be matched with the purchase order. The unit pricing needs to be matched so that we're sure we're being charged the right amount. If there's anything left that doesn't come in, then that purchase order needs to be closed. So, that's, this really, the purpose of the coffee chat isn't necessarily get into all that detail, but I don't know, just felt like it, I guess. So, that's the gist of how purchase orders should be used. And, it depends on your scenario. So I'm going to look at a couple questions here. So let's see. Flex. I love when a PO reflects the quoted fees. So we as accountants can serve our clients and potentially save them money if the bill arrives and it's a different cost and they're not paying the proper amount. The vendor's trying to overcharge them. So good point, Jamie. Another comment here. Maybe a PO in the accounting system could be printed PDF and signed with a secure digital signature and then attached to the PO in the accounting system. That definitely could be done. Now, I don't know a lot about the digital signing. I see like on all these PDF readers even where you can digitally sign a PDF, but I don't know exactly how that works. So the only thing I guess I would say in a control situation for internal control is that you're able to, document how that digital signature is being provided. Is it as simple as me sitting at somebody else's computer and signing it for them, which, doesn't help. So you'd need some controls on that if you're worried about the internal control, which of course you should be.